Welcome back to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft podcast. Have you ever been in a situation where it was cold, it was starting to rain, the wind was blowing, and you really didn't bring enough clothing for you, and you needed to get a fire started in order to keep yourself warm? And if you didn't get this fire started, you were going to end up with some hypothermia. Well, I have been in that situation. I have been in a situation where I had to get a fire started or I was going to get hypothermic. I was starting to shiver. And once you start shivering, you're going to just really start decreasing your body temperature from there. And it's going to waste a lot of calories. And then next thing you know, you're going to be hypothermic. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss the essentials of fire. We're going to discuss what it takes to start a fire and how to get it done and how to get it ignited and what are the elements that you need to get a fire started. If you haven't picked up your copy of Primitive Camping and Bushcraft, head on over to all major online retailers. They have a copy there. Pick it up and then join the Facebook group Primitive Camping and Bushcraft over on Facebook. Now, a good campfire is often called the television of the woods. How many times you've been camping, you look down into the fire and nobody's saying anything. They're just staring into the fire. Happens to me all the time. I can sit and stare inside of a fire for a long time. And, you know, one of the great things about the fire is that it provides comfort. It provides warmth. It's able to cook your food and it's able to get your water rendered safe to drink. And, you know, it's the only thing that the boogeyman is scared of. So what is fire? Fire is defined as the phenomenon of combustion giving off heat and light from a flame. So what does that really mean? So think of it as a triangle. On top, you have heat. On the bottom corners, you have fuel and oxygen. So this heat is any ignition source such as a spark or flame. And we're going to dive into this a little bit deeper with a couple of the methods of starting a fire in a minute. The fuel is the material that burns, such as a fire tinder, and then your kindling. Then underneath that, you have oxygen, and this is needed to sustain the combustion process. Think of it as your lungs and yourself. You're going to go out. You're going to die if you do not have oxygen. A fire is the same way. If it can't breathe, it can't live. And now a lot of people will say that fire is living and breathing, and it is. Though it has to have oxygen, and it consumes more fuel. If it doesn't have oxygen, it can't consume the fuel, and it will die or burn out. So how many times have you ever heard, my fire died? And it's the same thing with us. If we don't have enough oxygen, we will die. If we don't get enough fuel in our bodies, we will die. And so it's the same concept with a fire, with the fire triangle. If you've ever seen the recycling symbol and you have your spark or your heat up here, it comes all the way down. You have a fuel and then you come around to oxygen and it just keeps making that circle or that triangle, you know, just like the recycle. That is the perfect analogy of a fire. So tinder, what is tinder? Tinder is the initial material that catches the spark or the flame. So there's many ways to ignite a flame, and we're going to get to that a little bit shortly, but it should be, your tinder should be very dry and fine and so that it ignites easily. And you know, tinder is any material, natural or artificial, that can light with a spark. And, you know, there's going to be many devices out there that actually light your tinder. And once we get into those, some of them are just like we carry on an everyday basis. But grasses, leaves, commercial fire tinders, products that you can buy, like the Blackbeard fire plugs, stuff like that, they are all essential to starting your fire. You have to have some kind of a tinder source in order to get your fire started. Now, it's essential to gather these things when you're walking through the woods. If you walk upon some dog fennel, you walk upon some goldenrod, you know, there's got to be other stuff all throughout the United States that different, or the world, you know, different regions of the planet where you are, that if you find these things, you grab them, collect them, keep them dry with you, and you always have some kind of fire tinder to start your fire. From there, you have to have kindling. Now, whenever I'm starting a fire here in South Mississippi in the camping season, September, October through January, February, March, stuff like that, you can always find goldenrod or dog fennel. Now, these two weeds are prolific down here. They're everywhere. And once they blossom in the fall, and they create these little flowers, these nice little yellow flowers, and dog fennel has little white flowers, and they make all these flowers, and then they pollinate and do whatever they're going to do, and then they die. Now, once they die, they dry out, and once they dry out, they create the most amazing, cannot reiterate this enough, that this is the most amazing fire tinder. Now, you can use birch bark, you can use shavings from fat wood. You can use cotton ball. You can use, all kinds of different things to start a fire with. But I have found that dog fennel, goldenrod are the most amazing fire tinder. You can have the tinder for your fire, and you have kindling. Now, kindling is a kind of tinder that is a little bit bigger. And so once you have your tinder ignited, kindling is the next step. It is a little bit larger. It's used to build your fire. Kindling consists of small sticks and twigs that catch fire quickly and burn longer than the tinder. So gradually add your kindling to build your fire's intensity. So what I like to do is I will collect my goldenrod, I will collect my dog fennel, and they have a pith center. And these things, once they dry out, they become perfect kindling to start a fire. I cannot tell you how many times I've started a fire with these two items. So you ignite your tinder, and once your tinder catches on flames, then you just pile on all your kindling. And then once your kindling just starts really going, you start getting good coals. Then you throw on your fuel and bigger sticks till you get to the point where you can add large logs. Now, fuel is, like I just said, your large logs, your bigger stuff. Now, once your kindling is going and burning well, you can add larger pieces of wood, also known as fuel. And fuel burns longer and provides sustained heat. So you need to ensure you have a good mix of tinder, kindling, and fuel before you start your fire. You don't want to have all your tinder, start your fire, and I don't have my kindling. And then, or have your kindling and not enough fuel to do it, to put on there to burn longer. So what you're looking for is stuff that is up off the ground whenever you're doing your tinder and your kindling. You want to find, items that are up off the ground. If it's up on the ground, it's going to be wet. Generally, it holds in the moisture and everything from the rain. When the water come up, flooded a little bit, went down. If you're camping on a river, you want to have the stuff that's up off the ground, and you want to use that. You can find leaves. You can find all kinds of kindling, stuff like that off there. Now, be careful whenever you're getting vines and you're using vines to start a fire with, because poison ivy, once you burn that, it becomes dangerous. And I've done an entire video series on poison ivy, and it is bad. It may be dead, but it still has the oils in it. And whenever you burn it, it will cause you to have a reaction, and it could kill you or send you into the hospital. So now that we've got our tinder and we got our kindling and we got our fuel, let's go talk about how to start this fire. So there's various tools that you can use to start your fire. And, there's two that I highly recommend carrying with you constantly. These two items are you have people out there that are like bushcraft, I don't know, idealists or realists or genuineists or whatever you want to call. And, in order to qualify as bushcraft or survivalists, you have to be able to use a ferro rod, cut the stuff, A Bic lighter is the most economical, cost effective way to start a fire in modern history. A Bic lighter, a Bic lighter is the most reliable, it is the most long lasting, and it is less likely to break than your other brands or your other cheap off brands. But any one of those lighters they will start a fire. Now, a Bic lighter is a simple, lightweight, easy to use, highly effective way to start a fire. You can carry a few lighters with you in your backpack. You can put one in a fire kit, which we're going to get into here in a few minutes. You could put one in your first aid kit. You can have one in each cargo pocket if you want. And you can have, they make devices now to where you could put it in and it's waterproof and you can carry it around your neck. Let's just give credit where credit's due. A Bic lighter is the most amazing way to start a fire. Now, back to the ferro rod. The second easiest way to start a fire is a ferro rod. Now, notice I didn't include matches in there. Matches get wet. Matches, you lose your dexterity if you're cold enough to strike it. Matchsticks break. And, so I'm going with two of the most easiest ways to start a fire. Yes, matches are easy, but weeded those out due to the possibility that they can get wet and rendered useless, and as well as dexterity issues with striking it or losing the actual striker to strike it. Of course, some people be like, you got to strike anywhere kind. Well, there's not always anywhere to strike them, to be honest with you. But a ferro rod or a ferrocerium rod is a reliable fire starting tool. I covered that extensively in the book, Primitive Camping and Bushcraft, and it produces hot sparks and can ignite tinder even in wet conditions. This is true story. When I went on a camping trip and I could not get it to light with my Bic lighter, but I did get my fire to start with a ferro rod. Explain that to me. I don't know. I don't understand why. I met all the different criteria of the fire triangle, but the stuff was wet. Now, a ferro rod generates 5,000 degree sparks, up to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And these sparks are just like, if you use a ferro rod in combination with a carbon steel knife, you're going to have molten lava coming off that rod, and it's going to start you a good fire. Now, a ferro rod is durable, can be used thousands of times. And you practice using your ferro rod. It can be used in wet conditions, in windy conditions. It could be, a ferro rod is all around amazing. I have a ferro rod with me every time I go into the woods, as well as a Bic lighter. Now, let's get into the benefits of a fire. Let's talk a little bit about a fire kit first before we get into the benefits of a fire. Let's go over that. I wrote it here in the book about a fire kit, on page 162, the importance of fire kit. Now, a fire kit is an amazing little item. It's easy to put together. You can build it the way that you want to build it. You can put it in waterproof containers, stuff like that. Always have multiple ways to start a fire. And the reason why you want multiple ways to start a fire is because one can get lost, one can get broke, one can, not work, and you got another item in there that will work, for a certain fire starting situation. Now, a fire kit is a collection of items that can be used to start a fire, and the size of this kit can vary depending on how comfortable you are with starting primitive fires in the woods. Essentially, whenever I head out into the woods, I have a Bic lighter. I got numerous ones. I got one in my pocket. I got one in my first aid kit, and I got one in a fire kit. I usually carry 3 lighters with me. I have a ferro rod in my pocket. I have a ferro rod in my bag. Then I have a magnification lens, and then I have a magnification mirror. Now, the mirror and the magnification lens are also going to be in my first aid kit. So, I don't always per se carry a fire kit with me, but sometimes I do. Now, I made the fire kit out of a wax canvas bag. I went to Hobby Lobby and bought the bag for $1.50. And then I came home and I dipped that puppy in some melted wax. Now, that's not going to make it waterproof, but it will make it water resistant, and it will keep the water from soaking up everything in there. I do have char cloth in this fire kit. I made char cloth in a tin, and I do have the flint and steel in there as well. Now, you can make it as extensive as you want. Really, what you need is something that creates a spark, something that creates a flame, something that generates heat from your solar, and then that's about it. If you cover those three areas, you got a ferro rod or you have a flint and steel. All right, that creates your spark. Then a flame, you got a lighter. Okay, that creates a fire right there. And then you have something from the heat. Solar generates flame or heat from solar, and that would be a magnifying lens or a magnifying mirror or both. Now, I mentioned the magnifying mirror earlier. I use that because if you get something in your eye, you can see. Or harder to see spots, you can, you can look and see if you got ticks or whatnot. But I don't burn the ticks off in the sunlight with the mirror. That would hurt. But anyway, you can use a magnification lens to see the splinters, or in the event that you lose your glasses or you're trying to tie something like that. So it has multiple purposes. Everything you should have multiple purposes. So fire offers numerous benefits in a survival or primitive camping situation. Fire will create warmth. And we talked about shelters last time, and combined with a good shelter, a fire is going to provide warmth, which is crucial to preventing hypothermia. And, like I said before, you can have hypothermia in the summertime. People don't believe that, but it is possible. And I've seen it before. Cooking, and fire is paramount for cooking your food. You don't want to cook. You don't want to eat a lot of raw foods because it can introduce diseases, stuff like that, illnesses and bacteria, into your system and make you sick, and ultimately cause you to be done for your trip. Purifying your water, boiling your water over a fire is an effective way to purify it for drinking, and it will actually render it safe to drink from all biological contaminants. We're going to go over water here soon, and we're going to be talking about it. And then signaling for help. Fire can be used to signal rescuers for help. So if you get lost in the woods, don't panic, start a fire. If you light them woods on fire, people's coming to look. People's coming out there to find you. I promise you that. I'm not doning anybody, and I'm not recommending anybody light the woods on fire. I'm just saying, if in the event that you was lost, you need help, and you need out of there, that's a surefire way. That's why they call it surefire. That's a surefire way to get yourself found. All right. Now, also on top of that, boosting your morale. And if you're out in the woods for a couple of weeks, you get tired, you're feeling lonely, you're ready to come home. Fire offers comfort and a sense of security when you're in the woods. And especially at nighttime, it provides warmth, it provides you entertainment, and it actually gives you a sense of security because it wards off certain nighttime critters. And, they're not going to come around a fire. They may stay out there and look, but they're not going to come up to it because it's going to scare them off. But there's so many other ways to start fire and so many ways to go over fire. I've done in this book, Primitive Camping and Bushcraft, starting fire with water bottles, making fire wicks, all kinds of such. So, that's it for today. That's it for this episode on going over talking about fire. Remember, fire is an essential skill in the outdoors. You have to be able to start a fire if you're going to be an outdoor enthusiast. Practice these methods. Practice starting fires with different fire tinders, using different fire kindlings, using different materials. Next week, we're going to get a little bit more into fire starting techniques, and I'm going to talk about some things there. But right now, I just want you to concentrate on, finding a different kind of fire tinder. Tinder is one of the most overlooked, often looked aspects of your fire because people don't think, oh, I could just rub two sticks together and they're going to catch on fire. No, that's not how it works. And, you know, oh, I could just burn leaves. No, that's not how it works. You need something fine, something that's actually going to accept the spark and turn into a flame. So work on finding different fire tenders and kindlings, all right? Different fire tenders. There's tons of natural fire tenders in your area or the area that you're going to be visiting that you can use to start a fire, you know, from grass to cotton balls, you know, dog fennel to you name it. There's different natural materials out there that you can use to start a fire. Go ahead and pick up a copy of the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft on all major outlets right now. Amazon, Walmart, all those, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, all of those right now. It is on sale at Amazon for 15% off right now. So if you go over to Amazon, and if you picked up a copy, don't forget, please leave a review. Let me know what you think. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. Head over to Bushcraft and head over to Facebook and join the Bushcraft community, Primitive Camping and Bushcraft Facebook group. We got over 6,000 like-minded individuals all about primitive camping and bushcraft. And until the next video, I'll see you next time. God bless you.